Good morning, everybody. I'm Mark Zinni, and this morning for Eric Parker. Tomorrow, the Archdiocese of Hartford will officially welcome its new Archbishop with a Mass at St. Joseph's Cathedral in Hartford. This morning, we are very happy to welcome the new Archbishop. Archbishop Christopher Coyne is joining us in the studio. Thank you very much for being here this morning.
You're welcome, Mark.
Let's start with your role here, because this is pretty unique. You're actually going to work alongside Archbishop Blair, correct?
Yes, for the next 6 months or so, until he actually gets his letter of retirement, I'll be what they call a coadjutor, which means that while I'm technically an archbishop, he is still the one that runs the diocese. So I have a time of 5 or 6 months to get out and meet people and get to know people.
And you just got here, right, from Burlington?
I just got here from Burlington. I moved in last Saturday.
Okay.
And been spending the week getting to meet the priests and get out and moving into my rooms and learning more and more things and learning things like how to change my license over to Connecticut, things like that.
Well, that's a story for another day, the DMV. But I do want to ask you, you were in Burlington for a long time and you were really beloved there. I was watching some of the coverage when you had announced that you would be moving, and it was very hard for people. How many, you were there, what, 8, 9 years?
I was there a little bit less than 9 years.
Okay. Why was it so special for you to be there?
I went there just as their pastor.
Yeah.
There's a wonderful line from St. Augustine where he says, for my own sake I am a Christian, but for your sake I'm a bishop. And that's always been kind of my approach to all this. I'm there to be their pastor and to be their brother, their father sometimes, grandfather now, and to just try and encourage them. Always say the good things that men and women need to hear is my mantra. Things that'll raise them up, and trying to focus on trying on what we do well together, and also very collaboratively, raising up the voice of women within the church. In my own cabinet, by the time I left, most of the people in executive positions were women. Listening to their voice, hiring very good people based on not just on gender, but just because they knew what they were doing and they're good Catholics. So I always tried to be welcoming. The cathedral was a very diverse place. It was the most diverse church in the Diocese of Burlington, with people from Burundi and the Congos and the Vietnamese, and we had a lot of people who were in different kind of relationships, and they felt very welcome there as well. So it was all about coming together and being a welcoming community, a loving community in the faith of the church.
You talk about women. It's interesting because in watching some of the coverage, like I said, one parishioner said, no one has had as deep an impact on me as Bishop Coyne. In her 80-plus years, someone else said that she has never seen someone have such a wonderful relationship in your position with women and putting them in positions of power and really listening to them. Yeah,
I thought, when I saw that, I saw one of them, she says, you know, he was the first guy that ever was treated as like nice. I said, well, I felt bad for that. And I think in many ways that those things were unfortunate. But I grew up in a large family. I have three very powerful sisters and two wonderful brothers who are also very capable individuals. But my sisters they're probably the ones that drive the bus in our family, and you know, I've always they have a lot of wisdom to offer too within our family, but also within our faith. And so I think my mother herself was a person who worked in the church very closely, and she had a lot of. One of the things my mother did was she was a secretary, and she was the first person that people would encounter when they walked in the door of the church, and she always said, I'm the welcome mat of the church, and I have to do that. So she was known for being that welcome mat.
And I would imagine that's a role you want to play now here in this area. How do you get people to come back to the church, to welcome them back when there has been a decline? Obviously, this is a much larger diocese. If my numbers are right, if my math is correct, about 10 times bigger maybe than where you're coming from. Does that present different challenges?
It does, but I also have a lot of good people already here. A lot of good priests and deacons and a huge number of religious order, you know, the Benedictines, the Franciscans, and all the others that are here. So there's already a good nucleus of faith that we can build upon. My approach is, I always have the concern about that one person in front of me, or the couple in front of me. That's who I want to be with. And I want to talk to them about how God's already operating in their life, and then encourage them to invite God more and more into their life and into the life of faith. And yes, while there are many people who are still kind of walking away from the church, I always focus on the people in front of me and the victories that come of those people who are actually coming into the church. By the time I left the cathedral in Burlington, we had more people in the cathedral post-COVID than we did pre-COVID. And that's quite an accomplishment since a lot of people didn't come back after COVID.
I was going to say that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I know that there's a big meeting happening right now in the Vatican, and I think on Wednesday the Pope opened the meeting by talking about, really opening up the church. And I'm quoting here. He said, to make it a place for everyone, everyone, everyone. He said it 3 times. What do you think that means?
Well, I think the Pope's said consistently that the most important thing is to, he talks about accompaniment. He says, when you meet that person, you need to not accept them where they are, but you need to welcome them as they are and what's going on in their life. And already talk about how God's already operating in their life. And then walk with them and encourage them and move them perhaps along the life of faith and the life of belief. But if you start off by closing doors, by saying, well, only these people who pass a certain test can come in, then you're just setting aside a whole bunch of people, a lot of people who are struggling with all kinds of issues in their lives, or who are not struggling with issues in their lives, but are leading different types of lives. And the most important thing, his idea is, let's not close doors, but let's open doors. Let's be welcoming, and then let's encourage and move together, accompanying each other along the path. Not just my accompanying you, you accompanying me. I mean, some of the wisest things that I've heard over the past years of my life as a priest and bishop are from the simplest of people. And people that, but they weren't theologians, they weren't profound university professors, but there was a wisdom there, and all of a sudden you just say, wow, that's just one of the most wonderful things I've ever heard, and so you have to be open to that.
Well, we don't have much time, but I do want to ask you, what would you say to, Catholics in the community right now who have like we said, haven't been there, want to go back, or have been upset their particular church closed? This is maybe a new opportunity to come home.
Sure. I would say that if they really thought about it, God is still operating in their lives. And that if they begin to consider the stories of Jesus and the great, wonderful opportunities of salvation through him that they have, and just pray over that and even think about that, God is already there. Now consider that when you come into a community of faith, how much more proportionally it is, how much that reality of God that's already in your life can be bought and brought more deeply into it. So, just to stand it as an individual is to stand alone. To come together is to be supported.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's a wonderful message on a Sunday morning. Thank you very much, Archbishop. And welcome. Welcome to Channel 3 and welcome to Connecticut.
Yeah, and I hope everybody watches my massive welcome tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.